1 second. All right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Ashe, salute to the guys and the goddesses, the kings and the queens of the planet Earth. It's your brother, I'm the Amanashe family, also known as I'm the Omnis. I'm just checking in with the people, and I just want y'all to tap in with me so we can build real quick. Today's build, all right? Presentation of OmniVision EDU, BLACKNEWS720 family, all right? 8+ years independent researcher. My focus is just, it's just unlearning and relearning the colonial and Western mentality, which I believe is rooted in bias and, racism and hatred and envy towards another group of people. And so, considering that we know certain things have happened historically, like the little thing with the syphilis, with the government, and they was giving out, governmental assistance, and then they infected people, and people became harmed. That's just one of many things. The propaganda with the little Sambo cartoons with exaggerated features of, big lips, big eyes, big noses, eating watermelon. There's a lot of, biases that as an African American that you go through in the society once you begin to wake up and you begin to see these things and pay attention. And so anyway, the title is The Colonial Mind, right? Invasive species, producers versus consumers. All right, so anyway, just to share this one quick little story, I was at work not too long ago, and so customer service is somewhat required, for the job task. So you have to interact, communicate with people. So trying to get the individual to feel comfortable, you chop it up, try to conversate with them a little bit. Anyway, they shared a story with me about, how they've been over the world and traveling and just going different places. It was an older YT woman, and she was just sharing her experiences with me. And she was saying how she wanted to go to Africa, and there was a trip that she ended up missing because she got sick. But anyway, she was going there for missionary work. And the purpose, the intention was to try to help the little sick Africans and, give them medicine and give them food and all of these things, right? And so I'm listening to it, it's just crazy how a lot of people feel like their intentions may be pure or they're doing a good thing, but in reality, it's rooted, like I said, in a bias and in some type of, racism or misplaced hatred and envy towards another group of people. So anyway, the narrative is that before America, before colonization, indigenous and native groups and societies of people were savages, right? No knowledge, no education. That's not true, all right? We see with the Mayans that they had their own calendar system, right? They had their own astrology, right? With their own characters, represent certain star constellations. So they're dealing with cosmology, astrology. They're also builders, the Olmecs, the Aztecs, all right? So we see ancient megalithic structures in certain places around the world. And so that right there in itself shows you that ancient societies of people were educated. It takes mathematics to align, the stones and to make sure, everything is precise and mathematically calculated when you're doing architecture. Anybody who builds, they know that fact, family. And so anyway, when you relook and you re-examine some of the things that we've been told, it behooves you, it behooves me, family. Okay? And so anyway, I look at colonialism as an invasive species, which is why I put it in the title, because it's a non-native group that's coming in, imposing themselves on another group. Just like the crocodile hunter, right? You know, wait for it. You know, he jumping on the animals. He figure like he's saving them, helping them. But the animal is like, you know, back up, give me 50 feet. You is transgressing against my personal space. You are violating my personal space. And so anyway, he died from, I think it was a stingray. So the stingray stung him straight through the chest, family. Because while you thinking you're helping, you have to ask for permission. That's the thing about identifying narcissists versus people with empathy. When you have empathy, you think of what others may think. You're mindful of others, right? When you have high levels of narcissism, you just do what you do. So your mind does not equate what others think, feel, or none of that. So that's out the equation. And so anyway, that type of thinking, family, is intrusion. That's why I said invasive species. You're invading, you're intruding. You didn't ask me for my permission before you tried to help me, before you tried to do whatever you was doing. And so, like I said, that is an invasive mindset. It is a colonial mindset, and it's not rooted in any, true intention. And so, even though we had the little convo and we chopped it up, it's just like I'm in my mind. Then she told me the people she ended up being able to go on another trip where they was doing the missionary work. I think she said this was in like South America. And there were like tribal people, villagers, and that at first they didn't want any assistance, because it's like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? You coming in, let me help you. Like, who are you? And, narcissists, they do that. So anyway, but she said they ended up getting along with the people, hanging around them, chopping it up with them, getting comfortable, familiar with them. And the people like invited them to a ceremony, to a celebration, and then they danced and they had a good time. And so it shows you that the people are decent people. They're not savages. They just don't know who you are. They don't know your intentions. They don't know why you coming up to them. And so you need to let your intentions be known. I just had a funny interaction, not too long ago, where somebody just walked up out of nowhere talking about spirit told them to tell me something, family. Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? You kind of giving me some weird vibes. I don't know what you're doing. You didn't introduce yourself to me. You're just coming out of nowhere, just doing something. Now, I'm just not the type of strategy for that. So anyway, and from my spiritual lens and my intellectual lens, I see not asking for permission as intrusion and invasion. All right? Even with the spending power of African Americans in America. What is it, family? Ain't it like 3.4 billion or something like that? It might be in the trillions, I'm not for sure, but I know it's the largest spending power of any other ethnic group in America, even though we are the minority. Right? Let them tell it. We the minority, right? But have the highest spending power, right? We don't make the most money. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those banks and corporations, we have some that are black owned, but for the most part, at Wall Street, you feel me? That's not black owned, family. You know what I'm saying? And so, we have a little influence in the monetary system, but we are not true owners of things. And so anyway, when you just look at that fact, high spending power in America, African Americans supposed to make up 13% of the population, right? And we got the largest spending power. Prison system make up 36% African Americans, males, all right, in the prison systems. And so just to look at some of the things that we got going on to reevaluate. But I hope you guys have a good Sunday. I hope you're enjoying your day. I hope you're loving on yourself. I hope you're evolving, improving yourself, whether you're working out, you're reading a book, what I'm saying? Whatever it is, family. Like I said, we have eyes to see, we have ears to hear, right? And then we have minds to think. And so we have sensory systems that the universe gives us to calculate, right? To be mathematically precise and not make mistakes, family. So don't let people talk you out of what you have seen and what you have heard. I peeped the vibration. I've seen what just happened, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it is, so it's all good. But like I said, I believe that the capitalistic and the colonial mind state is biased, it's rooted in racism, it's intrusive, it's invasive, and it has no feelings or no cares of how other people feel. The situation with the Sinhalese people, I believe it's like it's a tribe, an indigenous tribe off the coast of Asia, and there was a situation where a missionary was killed trying to minister his version of spirituality, right? Talking about Jesus. And these people are native indigenous people with their own heritage, with their own culture, with their own way of life. That's what culture is. And so, unfortunately, the young man lost his life. I think his name was like John Chu or something like that. He was an Asian. And he tried to go minister to these indigenous black people that lived off in the island, right? The coast of Asia. And so they didn't want any foreigners. They didn't want any people that they didn't know if you were bringing disease. We know that disease was given to the native Indians during colonization of America, right? Like they say, with the YT people came death, sickness, and disease. The bubonic plague, the black plague, all right? Smallpox, cowpox, all these different plagues that came out in different places. And so when you go to a native group of people and they haven't welcomed you in, you don't force yourself upon people. So anyway, that's the first sign of narcissism, is intrusion. For me, in my life, in my situation, I respect people's, boundaries, and they have to respect mine as well, you feel me? But some people are just not mindful, family. They just do anything. They feel like, oh, well, if you let me, then that's on you. But maybe you tried to have a good heart. Maybe you tried to have morality. Maybe you tried to be civilized and have decency. And so while they're looking at that as weakness, right? You're just a person with a high morality. You're a person with care and consideration for yourself and for others around you. All right? And I know that we live in a society that preaches and teaches savagery, right? And to do what you want, no rules, no regulations. You know what I'm saying? You got transgenders playing sports. And it's just flip-flop, family. It makes no sense. Humans drinking milk from a different species when no other species does that. Kangaroos drink kangaroo milk, right? Cows drink milk from another cow, right? And so we're the only species that's going around doing things that are weird, family. So anyway, like I said, the lady, we chopped it up, had a little conversation, and I believe it went okay for the most part. But what I got out of it was intrusion and invasion. And you're not respecting these people's culture, right? And then when we're in school in Western culture, they're teaching us history from the lens of a colonial persons, right? Christopher Columbus, colonists, right? Really should have been named after Amerigo Vespucci. But anyway, they call them explorers. They say they navigated, they found it, they discovered it, but there were people already on the land, family. And so you have to look for that spirit. Is an energy that's not just in YT people, but also in melanated people. When they don't respect the person's boundaries, when they don't consider how others may feel when they do or say something, family. All right? And so, ain't gonna hold y'all too long. Love and light to the family. Ashe, make sure you hit up the Cash App. All right? That's $OMNISNATURA 360 LLC. Make sure you hit the notification button. make sure you go to YouTube and go to the channel tag at The Netter Guy 2126. YouTube at The Netter Guy 2126. That's THENTRGOD 2126, family. Love and light. Catch y'all on the next one. Bless.